What do you think when you see the circles floating silently in the ocean? A structure? A military device? Or just a strange object from the ocean? 2 million fish from the world's 5 most valuable species are being farmed in the middle of the ocean. Not as an experiment, but to fuel a global industry worth billions of dollars a year. From salmon monitored by robots in Northern Europe, to bluefin tuna fattened like Kobe beef, to lobsters farmed as treasures in Southeast Asia. Oysters, creatures that don't need to be fed but clean the ocean every day. And finally, sturgeon, the ancestor of the black eggs that are more expensive than gold. Go discover how raising 2 million fish in floating cages feeds a $1 billion global industry. $2 million fish, thousands of floating cages in the middle of the ocean. Seemingly small dots in the ocean, but in fact, they are links in an industry that feeds the whole world. The most prominent fish in this network is salmon, not only a culinary symbol of many countries, but also an economic machine worth billions of dollars. Among them, Atlantic salmon is considered to represent a revolution in aquaculture in the open sea, opening a new era for the modern aquaculture industry. Each cage can hold up to 150,000 fish, closely monitored by a 360-degree camera system, underwater sensors that continuously measure temperature, flow rate, and oxygen concentration. All data is recorded and processed like a smart factory, except that this factory is floating in the middle of the ocean. Today, salmon farming is no longer a story of individual fishermen, but a high-tech achievement where biology, engineering, and data are closely combined. Thanks to that, farmers can control quality, limit diseases, ensure rapid growth, and especially accurately forecast output half a year in advance. The world currently consumes more than 2.7 million tons of salmon each year. Norway alone, the salmon capital of the world, exports more than 1.3 million tons of salmon, earning nearly $12 billion, making this fish one of the strong pillars of the Nordic economy. From delicate sashimi plates in Japan to convenient fish burgers in America, salmon has infiltrated every corner of modern culinary culture. Not only because of its delicious taste and rich nutrition, but also because of its stability and ease of control. It is truly a product of industrialized agriculture underwater. Salmon, a seemingly simple fish, is setting the gold standard for global aquaculture. A living testament to the future of marine agriculture, smart, sustainable, and technologically connected at an unprecedented level. But what if we tried farming a completely different species? One that doesn't stay still like salmon, but swims its entire life. One that was once the muscle machine of the ocean and could only be hunted, not farmed. Faster than most fish, Tuna are icons of the ocean's wilds, relentless, long-distance runners who can swim thousands of miles from continent to continent. From Spain and Malta to Japan and Mexico, a completely different method of raising tuna has emerged. One that doesn't start from eggs, nor does it breed in tanks. Instead, young tuna are caught in the wild, released into giant floating cages in the ocean, and then fattened up with live fish for months. Each cage is about 164 to 262 feet in diameter, about 82 feet deep, like an underwater stadium, and holds between 100 and 280 people. 300 bluefin tuna, each weighing about 176 to 551 pounds. Once they reach their ideal size, the ocean warriors are harvested, frozen, and flown to Tokyo, where the value of a single fish can range from $50,000 to over $300,000, with individual fish selling for up to $1.8 million at world-famous auctions. But behind this super profitable model are unanswered questions. Tuna cannot yet reproduce artificially in a stable manner. Are under control. 23. Once they reach their ideal size, the ocean warriors are harvested, frozen, and flown to Tokyo, where the value of a single fish can range from $50,000 to over $300,000, with individual fish selling for up to $1.8 million at world-famous auctions. 24th. But behind this super profitable model are unanswered questions. Tuna cannot yet reproduce artificially in a stable manner. 25. The fish are still wild caught for their breeding stock, and the feed conversion ratio, FCR, is extremely high. It takes 22 to 33 pounds of bait fish to produce just 2.2 pounds of tuna. Despite the controversy, tuna farming is opening up a lucrative market worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and spurring research into artificial reproduction, aiming for a more sustainable future for the ocean's legendary fish. If tuna is the warrior of the sea, the next creature has a completely different appearance. Quiet, small, but of great value. A crustacean that is raised like a treasure in small cages right next to the shore. Lobster. With only rustic bamboo rafts and simple nets, coastal people in Southeast Asia are conquering one of the most precious crustaceans on the planet. In Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, and even the northern coast of Australia, this species of shrimp is being farmed in a traditional but extremely meticulous way. Small cages in the middle of the ocean connected into rafts, each holding from 20 to 50 shrimp. A large raft can be up to more than 2,000 individuals. They are treated like newborns. Lobsters are susceptible to heat stress, are sensitive to currents, and are extremely vulnerable during the most important biological time of their lives, when their shells are molted. If the environment becomes polluted or the temperature suddenly changes, the entire cage can be wiped out in a matter of days. But if you overcome the challenge, the reward is extremely worthy. A mature lobster can sell for between $30 and $80 per kilo, with some even reaching $100. They are not only a luxury on the dinner table, but also a hope for a better life for thousands of coastal families. In Vietnam alone, the region's leading lobster production center, about 2,000 tons are harvested each year, worth more than $200 million, mainly exported to China, Hong Kong, and Japan. In Australia, rock lobster has become a strategic commodity, supplying world-class restaurants. From fragile net cages to gilded banquet tables, from a crustacean of the sea to a global luxury icon. The journey of the lobster is a story of faith, hope, and the courage to survive in the fierce ocean. So how do you raise seafood without feeding it, without risking disease, and still generating billions of dollars a year? Meet the silent creature that is both food and a living biofilter for the ocean. It's the oyster. No robots, no food, no surveillance systems. This creature feeds itself silently and cleans the sea around it at the same time. It's an oyster, a vital part of the marine ecosystem and an indispensable link in the global economy. A single adult oyster can filter up to 50.2 gallons of water per day, removing toxic algae, excess plankton, and organic waste. In addition to being a food source, oysters are also known as nature's biofilters and are being used by countries in coastal reef restoration projects. Every year, the world harvests more than 5 million tons of oysters. France accounts for about 130,000 tons, the U.S. more than 90,000 tons, and Asian countries such as Japan, Korea, and Vietnam are constantly expanding their farming scale. Oysters are raised in hanging baskets, nets, or trays in sheltered bays with stable tides and clean water. They filter the water for their own food, growing day by day without human feeding or care. The farming process creates no pollution, no waste, and leaves almost no ecological footprint. In France, the oyster industry generates more than $500 million in revenue each year. In the United States, the oyster industry is experiencing a resurgence thanks to community-based aquaculture programs. No fuss, no fanfare. The humble oyster is playing a big role in the future of our oceans. But if oysters are silent water purifiers, then the next species is a slow-living creature, but one that produces the most luxurious things from the sea. An ancient species that must be raised for decades just to get a few hundred grams of black eggs, sturgeon and caviar. Not the fastest fish, not the most farmed. But sturgeon is a living treasure of the seafood industry because it is from this ancient fish that humans create one of the most luxurious and expensive dishes on the planet, caviar. Under the calm water, each adult sturgeon swims slowly and silently, wearing a rough silver-gray skin like prehistoric armor. To get a small spoonful of caviar, the journey can last up to 10 years. Each female sturgeon must be raised under strict conditions until she reaches reproductive age. And when that time comes, the egg retrieval process is performed in a sterile room with a technique that is almost like a sophisticated surgery, gentle, precise, and without room for error. Each shiny black egg falls onto the stainless steel tray like a black pearl. Each kilogram can cost up to $25,000, turning each cage into a living bank where hope, meticulousness, and years of waiting are kept. From Russia's Volga River to Iran's Caspian Lake, where sturgeon once lived in the wild, to China's massive farms, which now account for about 60% of the world's sturgeon production, the global caviar industry produces about 400 tons a year. But no two places are alike because sturgeon are notoriously finicky. They need clean, fresh water, calm water, stable salinity, and temperature. A shock, a small change in the environment, can also cause the fish to lose eggs, or the eggs are not of good quality. To control that, modern sturgeon farms use all the technology available: 24/7 sensor monitoring, ultrasound to track egg development, hormone testing, water disinfection. exactly like a high-end pharmaceutical line. From ancient rivers to modern farms in the heart of Asia, sturgeon and caviar are telling a new story. That today's floating cages are not just holding fish, they're feeding the future of the global luxury food industry. Two million fish, thousands of cages, 5 key aquatic species. It all started from steel structures floating in the wind and waves. But inside is technology, life, and the solution to global food security. The future of seafood lies not at the bottom of the sea, but floating in the ocean, in cages shaped like hope. Which species are you most impressed with? Comment below and click subscribe so you don't miss out on the next magical journeys. Tuna are not ordinary ocean fish. They are biological machines designed to never stop. Yellowfin, big eye, and bluefin tuna all possess enormous bodies, each weighing from 150 to over 600 pounds, with muscles as dense as living steel. Unlike most marine creatures, tuna must swim continuously to survive. Stopping means death. Their blood is warmer than the surrounding seawater, and their hearts beat relentlessly, allowing them to maintain high speeds and exceptional endurance for hundreds of miles. This ability makes tuna the ultimate predators, and also the most dangerous opponents when pulled aboard. Behind the enormous commercial value and the globally sought-after fish meat lies a little-known fact. Pulling up 200 tuna is not like pulling up fish. It's pulling up 200 living muscle masses, fighting with all the strength that nature has given them. The moment 200 tuna surface simultaneously is not the result of luck. It is the culmination of a series of precisely calculated maneuvers where technology, experience, and human effort work together like a complete hunting machine. On the bridge, the captain and technicians glued their eyes to the sonar, fish finder, and radar. Tiny signal dots on the screens revealed the location, depth, and size of an entire school of tuna moving below. Only when they confirmed the school was large enough and at the correct water level did the ship begin to accelerate. On deck, the winch, power block, and crane are all in operation. The nets are gradually pulled up. Seawater floods the deck, along with hundreds of muscular tuna bodies crashing violently against each other. The cumulative weight can reach tens of tons, causing the ship to vibrate with every movement. Just one small mistake, a misaligned cable, slow operation, can tear the net, let all the fish escape, or cause an accident in an instant. This is a method of fishing that yields enormous catches in a short time, but the risks are always at their highest. In stark contrast to purse seine fishing, tuna fishing with a long line is a game of patience and skill. Before casting the line, the fisherman must read the current, water temperature, depth, and when the fish will come up to feed. These factors determine the entire success or failure. With long line fishing, a main line tens of kilometers long is lowered into the sea, carrying hundreds to thousands of baited hooks. After hours of waiting, the fish are pulled up one by one. With hand line or pole and line fishing, the crew stands close to the side of the boat, jerking the fish continuously in a fast, precise, and extremely strenuous manner. The yield from these methods is much lower than that of nets, but in return the fish are less scratched, have firmer flesh, and meet the standards for sashimi, sushi, and high-end markets, where their value can be many times higher. One method relies on technology and collective strength to pull up hundreds of fish at once. The other relies on skill and experience to maintain the highest quality. Whether by net or by fishing rod, the moment 200 tuna surface at the same time is always clear evidence of the relentless confrontation between man and the ocean, where every decision carries risk, but can also determine the outcome of an entire fishing season. The ship's deck instantly transformed into a battleground for survival as 200 tuna were simultaneously pulled out of the water. The enormous weight crashed onto the steel deck, accompanied by the screeching of cables, the clanging of metal, and the thrashing of hundreds-pound fish bodies. Each sailor stands in their proper place like a cog in a living machine. The cableman, the fish channeler, the load controller. There is no room for error. Commands require only glances, gestures, and short, decisive shouts. The greatest pressure doesn't come from the fish's strength, but from time. The deck is wet with water and blood, slippery as a trap. Just one slow beat or one wrong release of the hand, and an accident could happen instantly. Therefore, each group of fish was processed in a precise sequence, not to speed things up, but to maintain control. When the last batch of fish lay still, there was no cheering, just quiet nods. They knew they were winning not by brute force, but by discipline amidst chaos. When 200 tuna have covered the deck, the catch is considered complete. But the real race begins now. This is a race measured in minutes, not hours, and there is no room for hesitation. Each fish is processed in an almost perfectly precise sequence. The blows must be accurate enough to stun the fish immediately, preventing convulsions that could damage the flesh. The knife is neatly incised at the gills and caudal peduncle to thoroughly drain the blood, preventing the darkening of the flesh from spreading, a factor that could cause the selling price to plummet in an instant. Every action was performed in silence and with intense concentration, because everyone understood that even a few minutes' delay meant real money would begin to disappear. Immediately afterward, the fish is taken straight down to the ship's hold. Slurry ice, a mixture of seawater and fine ice, envelops the entire fish, lowering its core temperature to a safe level as quickly as possible. The cold penetrates deeply, slowing down enzymes and bacteria before they can break down the flesh's structure. For large-scale catches or fish destined for the premium market, the blast freezing system is activated. An extremely powerful stream of cold air blows through each compartment, locking the quality of the fish in a state almost as if it had just left the sea. At this stage, temperature is the fine line between profit and loss. Just a few degrees off can cause the flesh to fade, the firmness to decrease, and the commercial value to plummet. Fish worth thousands of dollars can lose half their value simply because of slow processing or insufficient cooling. On the ship's deck, amidst the roar of the engine, the stench of blood, and the biting cold, no one spoke of the market or the fancy restaurants, because that money wasn't decided at the fish market. It was decided in the first 30 minutes, right here, where every tick of the clock carried risk, and every precise move held millions of dollars at risk of vanishing. The catch has just ended, but the real journey for the 200 tuna has only just begun. They are no longer the ocean's spoils, but immediately enter a rigorous processing chain, where every minute determines the value of each fish. Right on the ship's deck, the tuna are quickly and accurately sorted by size, fat content, and flesh color. Only the highest quality fish are kept intact for sashimi and sushi, where every fiber of flesh must be bright red, firm, and completely flawless. At the factory, the process is even more rigorous. The fish are cleaned, skinned, and cut along the grain to preserve the texture. The back becomes premium sashimi. The fatty belly is used for steaks or pan frying, and smaller portions are processed into canned tuna, tuna in oil, or ready-to-eat products. Almost no gram of meat is wasted. All of that value is determined from the very first steps: draining at the right time to preserve the color, freezing quickly to maintain freshness, and each precise cut to lock in the flavor. Just one small mistake, and tuna can fall from a premium product to a common food item. When 200 tuna are pulled up in a single haul, it's not just a monetary win, but a question mark hanging over the ocean. Tuna are near the top of the food chain, playing a crucial role in maintaining the balance of the entire ecosystem below. When they disappear too quickly, the ocean doesn't cry out for help with words, but with imbalance. Small fish schools explode and then collapse, other predators lack food, and the natural order of millions of years begins to fall apart. Therefore, today's massive catches are controlled by quotas, international management, and strict seasonal restrictions. The lesson remains. Bluefin tuna once came close to extinction simply because humans exploited them faster than the sea could recover. And the final question is no longer how many fish we catch, but how many fish are left in the ocean to allow us to continue fishing. Finally, when the deck is quiet again and the ocean is calm, what remains is not just the value of a catch, but the fragile boundary between man and nature. Each tuna pulled up is the result of technology, skill, and sacrifice. But if the ocean runs dry, there will be no more voyages. If you want to continue exploring the true stories behind the most dangerous professions, million-dollar hunts, and the secrets the ocean is hiding, subscribe to the Go Discover channel and join us on our next journeys. In the warm, sediment-rich waters of the Gulf of Mexico, these tiny creatures quietly power an entire coastal economy. Brown shrimp, white shrimp, pink shrimp. Three seemingly ordinary names, but they are the lifeblood of thousands of fishing communities stretching from Texas to Florida. Every year, millions of tons of shrimp leave this sea to appear everywhere, from the frozen food shelves in supermarkets to cheap fast food meals to high-end seafood restaurants. Few people know that the Gulf of Mexico is one of the largest shrimp farms in the United States, where a single successful fishing season can feed an entire town. Small and fragile shrimp are an irreplaceable link in the national food chain. And when the life cycle of shrimp changes, the entire coastal region is shaken. For many years, shrimp was considered just another familiar seafood dish. But then, things changed. Demand for shrimp in the U.S. skyrocketed from family meals to giant restaurant chains. As imported shrimp became expensive, delayed, and prone to disruptions due to global logistics, domestically caught shrimp in the Gulf of Mexico suddenly became gold on the market. Modern refrigeration, quick freezing, and transportation technologies have completely changed the game, allowing shrimp to maintain high quality from ship's deck to the table. In just one successful fishing season, a single vessel can bring in anywhere from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, sums large enough to change the fate of an entire fishing family. But behind that $3 billion frenzy, a harsher reality is gradually emerging. Because as profits increase, the pressure at sea becomes unprecedentedly brutal. On the shrimp boats adrift in the Gulf of Mexico, fishing doesn't follow the usual shift system, but operates like a machine that can't be stopped. Here, time isn't measured by clock hands, but by human strength alertness and the limits of each sailor's endurance. Each fishing trip lasts weeks, even months. As soon as the ship reaches the fishing grounds, life immediately shifts to a harsh mode. Heavy nets are lowered to the seabed, scraping against the deep water to gather moving schools of shrimp. The winches screech, the engines roar, and the entire ship shakes as the nets slowly rise from the water, carrying with them the hopes of the entire trip. The moment the net touches the deck, no one is allowed to delay. Shrimp are dumped onto the slippery steel deck, and sailors bend over to sort them by hand in the icy cold seawater amidst the smell of engine oil metal and the harsh white light that shines throughout the long night. One haul followed another, blurring the lines between day and night. 14 to 18-hour shifts were no exception. They were a constant rhythm of life on board. Between trawling trips, they don't really rest. Torn fishing gear must be mended immediately. Unwanted creatures caught in the nets must be removed, and machinery is hastily checked before the next fishing round begins. Just a small hiccup, a minute's delay, can cause a serious drop in output, and in this profession, output is everything. Living space on the ship was so cramped that every square meter was utilized. Sleep was fragmented into short bursts, a few hours of dozing off before waking up again at the sound of the alarm. Far from the mainland and their families, they accept missing out on normal life activities in exchange for an income that depends entirely on the amount of shrimp stored in the freezer. Behind those shrimp catches, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, are people living with constant risks, unpredictable weather, slippery decks, heavy machinery, and the ever-present threat of accidents. In the Gulf of Mexico, shrimp fishing is more than just a production industry or a marine harvesting technique. It's a constant trade-off between strength, time, and safety to sustain life in the ocean, a life that is never easy. The moment the nets surfaced on deck, the real pressure began. Shrimp allow no delay. Amidst the roar of the engines and the deck drenched in seawater, the sailors immediately emptied the nets, bending low to sort each batch of shrimp by hand. Time now becomes the greatest enemy. Temperatures rise every minute. Bacteria begin to become active, and every passing second can erode the value of goods. The shrimp, once they meet the standards, are immediately transferred to a deep freezing system where the temperature drops to near freezing time, preserving their freshness as if they had just been taken from the seabed. There is no room for error. A tray of shrimp that is slow to cool, a momentary lapse in timing, can result in the entire shipment being devalued or rejected entirely. On board, a ship's speed is not just about efficiency, but about money, the result of weeks at sea. When the ship docks, the industrial machinery continues its relentless cycle. Shrimp leave the ship's cold storage, enter the processing plant, and undergo freezing, sizing, packaging, and labeling in a process calculated down to the hour. In just a few days, those shrimp are neatly stored in supermarket freezers, ready to appear on dinner tables thousands of miles away. Few realize that the value of the multi-billion-dollar shrimp industry is not decided in a fancy restaurant, but rather in the most tense moments on board a ship at sea at night. There, every decision, every action, and every minute of delay can generate enormous profits or wipe out the efforts of an entire voyage. Each time a shrimp net is pulled up along with the income-generating shrimp, a large portion of the seabed is stirred up. The nets dragged close to the bottom not only gather shrimp but also carry along small fish organisms living in the sand and species not intended for fishing. Because of this impact, shrimp fishing activities today are no longer completely free as before. Many areas have limited fishing times with seasons when fishing is permitted and seasons when it is necessary to stop to allow the sea to rest. Production is also controlled to prevent overfishing that could deplete shrimp stocks. However, on board the ship, things are not as simple as they appear on paper. For fishermen, each trip to sea is a significant expense fuel food ship maintenance, and the effort put in over several weeks at sea. When fishing time is shortened or yields are limited, their income drops immediately, while family life on shore still requires money to sustain them. Therefore, shrimp fishing is always a struggle between two sides. On one side is the need to protect the sea and preserve a source of livelihood for the future. As the sun disappears completely behind the Gulf of Mexico horizon, the lights on the decks of the ships are switched on one by one, signaling the start of a new cycle. The shrimp boats leave the harbor carrying not only nets and fuel, but also the hopes of the entire coastal community that depends on each trip. Below the surface, the ocean also bears the brunt of this competition. Resources are no longer inexhaustible, recovery cycles are slowing, and each fishing season pushes the ecosystem closer to its limits. The sea still provides shrimp, but not indefinitely as before. In an industry worth approximately $3 billion, the gamble never stops, it just moves from one train to another. And the big question of our time is no longer how much we make from the sea, but who bears the greatest risk: the people on board the ships, the towns that depend on the sea, or the ocean itself. As the shrimp boats disappear beyond the horizon, the gamble between profit and survival continues every day in the Gulf of Mexico. Behind every shrimp on the table lies sweat, risk, and decisions with no turning back. If you want to continue exploring the harshest industries, the people caught between money and danger, subscribe to the Godiscover channel, turn on notifications, and join us as we delve deeper into real-life stories from the fringes of safety. On the world culinary map, Japanese scallops have gone beyond the limits of a common seafood to become a symbol of luxury. In Michelin-starred restaurants in Tokyo, New York, or Paris, a plate of scallop sashimi with a few slices of silky ivory white meat can cost 10 times more than ordinary seafood. Gourmets believe that Japanese scallops have a unique flavor, sweet, fatty, leaving an unforgettable subtle aftertaste. This is what makes them the stars of high-class dining tables. But behind the luxury lies a multi-billion-dollar market. Japan not only consumes scallops domestically, but is also one of the world's largest exporters of scallops. From Hokkaido, containers of high-quality seafood leave the port every day, crossing the ocean to major consumption hubs in the US, China, and Europe. There, Japanese scallops are auctioned off as a rare commodity, with each pound of their glossy white flesh able to skyrocket in price in minutes. It is the combination of unique flavor, standardized production process, and national brand value that has made Japanese scallops maintain their position as the king in the world of high-end seafood. Off the coast of Hokkaido, where cold ocean currents intersect, small ships still diligently stick to the sea all year round. On deck, seasoned fishermen dedicate their lives to a seemingly ordinary seafood that is coveted around the world: scallops. To get a standard clam, the farmer must wait at least 3 to 5 years. Over this long period of time, thousands of clams are suspended below the surface, swaying in the nutrient-rich sea. They grow slowly, accumulating a deep sweetness that only patience can create. When harvest time comes, the seas of Hokkaido become a real challenge. Heavy cages, sometimes weighing hundreds of kilograms, are slowly pulled from the freezing depths. The thick shells are covered with moss, barnacles, and countless other clinging creatures, forcing fishermen to use all their strength to separate them one by one. The work is hard and repetitive, but even the slightest mistake is enough to make their hands bleed. In many places, divers do not stop on the deck of the ship. They have to go directly to the bottom of the sea. Amidst the strong currents and numbing cold temperatures, they use knives to remove the clams from the substrate, batch by batch, bringing them to the surface. Every breath under the sea is dangerous, but for them, a heavy catch of clams is the lifeblood of the whole family. And when the last of the giant clams were brought up, the rough, bumpy shells seemed to hide a treasure. Inside was ivory white, plump flesh with the cool, sweet taste of the ocean. Witnessing that moment, people understood. Hokkaido scallops are not just a dish, but also the crystallization of the ocean, of the perseverance and courage of cold country fishermen. Each fishing trip usually lasts for many hours, requiring the smooth coordination of the captain, mechanic, and fisherman. When the iron winch squeals, gradually lifting the heavy farming platforms from the seabed, the whole ship seems to vibrate with each load. One group quickly fixes the cables, another group prepares containers and cleans seawater to receive the scallops. Everything happens continuously, almost without pause. To get the standard scallops, fishermen do not simply cast nets or hooks. The journey to harvest them is a difficult battle with the sea. In some deep water areas, they have to use high-capacity vacuum cleaners, inserting long tubes into the seabed to suck each scallop out of the thick layer of sand. The roar of the engine drowns out the sound of the waves, and each time they suck up, there are not only scallops, but also rocks, mud, and moss, forcing the fishermen to manually sort them right on the deck. There are places where machines are powerless. Divers must put on heavy suits and carry air tanks to dive deep into the icy seabed. There they use knives or iron hooks to separate the clams from the substrate one by one in conditions of strong currents and temperatures that can numb the hands. Every breath underwater is a gamble with risks, but they still persevere because just one successful batch of clams is enough to feed the whole family. In addition, there are giant fishing cages lowered into the sea for months. When pulled up, they are heavy, covered with seaweed and clinging creatures, requiring human and machine power to free each clam inside. It is the complexity, heaviness, and danger of these methods that make scallops a luxury seafood, not only because of their characteristic sweet and cool taste, but also because of the value of sweat, strength, and courage of the fishermen at sea. As soon as the crates of scallops arrive at the docks, it's a race against time. To preserve their natural sweetness and silky texture, the scallops must be taken straight to the processing plants on the same day. In Hokkaido, modern factories operate almost continuously with strict control lines from temperature, hygiene, to processing speed. Each clam is cleaned of its rough shell, then separated by hand or machine to get the ivory white meat inside. It takes only a few seconds for skilled workers to open the shells, but in that short time, they have to check the color, elasticity, and characteristic aroma. Unsatisfactory oysters are immediately discarded. Only perfect individuals are kept for packaging. The flash freezing step is the most important. The temperature drops immediately to lock in the flavor, ensuring that when the scallops arrive in New York or Paris, they are still as good as when they left the sea in Hokkaido. Each box of scallops is packaged with a clear traceability stamp labeled Product of Japan, a guarantee that chefs and diners worldwide are always willing to pay a high price to own. But the story doesn't stop with refrigerated containers leaving the port. When Japanese scallops entered the international market, their value came not only from their taste and quality, but also from their scarcity and the almost absolute trust that consumers had in the national brand. And it is that very factor that contributes to creating prices that can surprise anyone who hears them for the first time. When crates of scallops leave the port of Hokkaido, it is just the beginning of a journey of luxury. In the U.S., China, and Europe, demand for Japanese scallops far exceeds supply. It is this scarcity that has pushed their value to a special height. A batch of premium scallops can be sold for many times more than scallops from any other country, simply because they carry the Japan quality stamp, synonymous with purity, rich sweetness, and a strictly controlled farming process. In Michelin-starred restaurants and high-end supermarket chains, Hokkaido scallops are seen as a statement of class. Owning and serving this seafood is not simply about satisfying culinary needs, but also a commitment to bringing diners one of the most quintessential products from the sea. Scarcity becomes more pronounced as the rearing period extends from 3 to 5 years, while Hokkaido's harsh climate makes expanding production nearly impossible. Therefore, Japanese scallops have been elevated to a golden delicacy in the seafood world, where value is determined not only by weight, but also by story, reputation, and global trust. And then the journey ends in a luxurious space, sophisticated dining tables where just a piece of skillfully prepared clam is enough to evoke the luxury, quintessence, and conquering spirit of Japanese cuisine. In the glittering lights of luxury restaurants, Japanese scallops take on a completely different stage. On Michelin-starred tables in Tokyo, New York, or Paris, the ivory white flesh is thinly sliced for sashimi, preserving its natural sweetness. Or quickly pan-fried over high heat, the surface is golden brown, the inside is still soft and juicy, giving off a rich, fatty aroma. Each piece of scallop is not just seafood, but a taste experience where diners can feel both the saltiness of the Hokkaido Sea and the sophistication of the art of preparation. The world's top chefs consider Japanese scallops to be the crown jewels of their kitchens. A dish with a few scallops can cost hundreds of dollars, but what customers are really paying for is more than just flavor. It's rarity, the mark of a cuisine that puts quality first. Therefore, Japanese scallops have become a symbol of luxury, sought after everywhere, from wealthy family dining tables in Hong Kong to elite parties in Europe. And when the flavor melts on the tip of the tongue, few people imagine that behind it is an arduous journey, from the cold ocean through the strong hands of fishermen to modern processing lines before reaching the delicate dining table. This story is not just about a seafood dish, but also about how people turn something small into a luxurious treasure admired by the whole world. From the cold seas of Hokkaido to the fine dining tables of New York and Paris, Japanese scallops have proven that luxury lies not only in the taste, but also in the arduous journey behind. Each piece of scallop is a combination of nature, human effort, and exquisite culinary culture. And that is the reason why they are valued as gold. A slice of pan-fried fish, golden brown on the outside, soft and sweet on the inside. It doesn't need much seasoning, just a little butter, a few drops of lemon to keep the taste of the sea. A meal of just a few bites can reach the threshold of $100, not only because it is delicious, but because behind it is a whole chain of strict labor, from fishing preservation to strict inspection. Whether it's Japanese sashimi or French grill scallops are always given absolute respect because everyone understands this cannot be faked, cannot be rushed. And when diners enjoy it, they do not know that each piece of clam is the crystallization of the ocean and the lives of people who depend on the sea. If you want to continue discovering other amazing stories from the ocean to the table, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Go discover to accompany us on the next journeys. When it comes to the most dangerous professions in America, the ocean comes to mind as a harsh battlefield where life and death are separated by only a single slip. In the frigid waters of Alaska, crab fishing is notoriously a life or death challenge.
Hold on.
High waves submerged the deck. Slippery ice turned every step into a gamble with life, and a single broken winch cable could instantly claim the life of a sailor. Each crab pot, weighing hundreds of kilograms, being pulled up in the middle of a snowstorm is a true test of human strength. Seawater whips against the deck like a lash, and thick ice on the cables makes every maneuver slippery and dangerous. The enormous pot, having just emerged from the sea, spun violently in the wind, slamming against the ship's hull with a deafening metallic roar. A single misstep or half-second of slow coordination could send anyone tumbling under the weight of the pot, which weighed hundreds of kilograms. Moving down to the Gulf of Mexico, shrimp trawling is no less dangerous. The boat rocks violently in sudden storms, heavy nets get tangled around your legs, and tons of shrimp slide wildly beneath the deck, requiring sailors to react quickly in every second. One moment of carelessness, and you could be swept away by the nets or plunged into the freezing sea. In Maine, lobster fishing may seem more peaceful, but it's actually quite risky. The decks are slippery with water and ice, winches pull in lobster traps weighing hundreds of kilograms, and high waves can strike unexpectedly, submerging both crew and equipment. Sailors must work together seamlessly, every second counts, and every action must be precise. Finally, in New England, scallop dredging is another challenging profession. Heavy equipment, limited workspace, and cramped, slippery decks create risks of being pinched, tripped over, or even caught in machinery. Each shift is a test of reflexes and courage, where a small mistake can have serious consequences. These professions are not just jobs, they are lives where stress, danger, and risk are present every second. Here, a small slip could be death. And that is why seafarers must possess extraordinary skills, courage, and determination to survive. This is a harsh environment where the sea never shows mercy, and it is also the setting for dramatic survival stories that few can imagine. Behind every ship, after the storms and slippery decks, are people, sailors carrying their families and hopes on their shoulders. Life at sea is unlike anywhere else. 12 to 16-hour shifts, cramped sleeping quarters barely big enough for a bunk bed, no strong internet, and weeks away from home becoming a mental test. Every day, they wake up to the sound of the alarm, check their equipment, prepare their nets, and face the ocean, where a lack of concentration, a small mistake, or a slip could turn everything into a disaster. In their rare moments of rest, they have few distractions, a cramped gym, a few TVs, or a quick chat with teammates. But every second, every decision is fraught with risk and responsibility. When a crab pot weighing hundreds of kilograms is pulled up, they must coordinate perfectly, calculating every step to ensure no one gets hurt. The decks of ships off the coast of America are not a place for slowness or carelessness. Here, every fishing method carries its own risks, but all follow a common rule. A single misstep can cost lives. On crab fishing boats in Alaska, crab pots weighing nearly 800 pounds sway violently with each gust of cold wind from the Bering Sea. Just a strong rocking motion or a slip of the pot's rope can send a pot crashing onto the deck with enough force to break bones, scatter belongings, and put anyone standing in the wrong position in immediate danger. In the Gulf of Mexico, danger takes on a different form. Giant shrimp trawls, when pulled up, can suddenly twist or wrap around a sailor's legs. Once the cable is fully tensioned, it can yank a person underwater in seconds, where strong currents and propellers make survival extremely precarious. In Maine, lobster harvesting may seem like a gentler job, but it hides a hidden danger. The heavy lobster traps, when the deck is tilted by waves, can all slide like uncontrolled blocks of steel. A single sliding trap is enough to break a leg. Multiple traps sliding at once can send a sailor tumbling over the railing into the frigid 40-degree Fahrenheit water, where their body becomes paralyzed within minutes. Each fishing method has its own equipment, conditions, and procedures, but they all share one common reality. Danger appears unexpectedly and lasts only a few seconds. A small mistake, a slip of the foot, or an unusual wave can lead to irreversible consequences. On the open sea, where wind, waves, and heavy equipment operate simultaneously, nature never allows for mistakes. Whether it's crab fishing, shrimping, or lobster harvesting, it's all a constant confrontation with the thin line between life and death, a challenge that only the seasoned, alert, and resilient can overcome. After enduring all the dangers, many sailors still return to the ocean. It may sound counterintuitive, but for them, it's not just a job. It's a way of life, a place that tests human courage, willpower, and survival skills. However, there are things stronger than fear that keep them clinging to the sea. Teamwork, professional pride, a connection to the ocean, and its harsh beauty. Income is also a major motivator. A successful crab fishing or lobster harvesting season can bring in hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, a well-deserved reward for the risks they face. Most importantly, life amidst the harshness of nature creates a sense of being truly alive and vibrant. Each day is a challenge where people must coordinate precisely, react quickly, and be resilient to survive. In America's most dangerous professions, people are the lifeblood, the reason why voyages continue despite the ever-present dangers. In America's most dangerous seafood industries, the coast isn't the finish line. The moment the ship comes to a halt, another battle begins, a battle in the processing plant, where speed, cold steel, and exhaustion clash, and a moment of carelessness can be costly. With Alaskan king crab, the pressure starts the moment it arrives at the plant. These crabs, weighing dozens of pounds, must be processed in a short amount of time to preserve their firm meat and high value. Workers toil amidst boiling steam, melting ice, and slippery metal floors, alongside powerful hydraulic cutters and high-capacity conveyor belts. The crab claws still hold a strong grip. A single misstep can result in broken bones or serious injury. Here, speed dictates profit, but that same speed also means constant risk of accident. For Maine lobster, the danger comes from relentless repetition. Thousands of lobsters are loaded onto conveyor belts each shift, requiring rapid sorting, claw attachment, and transfer to live tanks or freezing lines. Cables, metal hooks, and heavy traps are still present in the processing area. Prolonged cold temperatures cause numb hands and slowed reflexes, while each lobster can still grip with enough force to crush a finger. Many workers have accumulated injuries for decades that are never documented. As for New England scallops, the danger is more subtle, but no less harsh. The scallops are pulled up along with mud, rocks, and razor-sharp shells, then dumped into the processing area. Workers must stand for hours separating shells, cleaning, and sorting in a damp, cold, and noisy environment. Broken shell fragments can fly out unexpectedly. The heavy conveyor belts are constantly moving, and even a small slip is enough to trap a worker or cause them to fall into running machinery. The common thread in all these jobs is that there is no room for error. Profits from king crab, lobster, or scallops are measured in millions of dollars, but the price is the health, safety, and sometimes the lives of the people behind each container of frozen seafood. And that's why, in America's most dangerous seafood industry, the question isn't just how much money they make, but why they still take the risk to continue this work. Every fishing season is a race against risk in nature, but the future of crab fishing, shrimp trawling, and lobster harvesting is becoming more unpredictable than ever. Climate change is making the seas more unpredictable, with stronger and more frequent storms, and marine populations are constantly shifting or declining. Once abundant areas now have to apply strict quotas to protect resources, resulting in lower yields and increased pressure. The accident rate in the profession remains high, becoming a major barrier for the younger generation when choosing to follow in their footsteps. Nevertheless, for many families, the ocean is still home, and going out to sea is an inseparable part of their lives. They are connected to the sea through experience accumulated over generations, through survival skills passed down as a legacy. Amidst changing seascapes, these dangerous fishing practices retain their appeal thanks to the discipline, courage, and resilience of the people who depend on the sea for their livelihood. Despite the ever-present risks, they continue to sail out to sea, not just for a living, but also to preserve their traditions, their resilience, and the deep connection between humans and the ocean. The sea never forgives mistakes, and every day on board is a battle with nature, with risk, and with oneself. But it is thanks to their courage, skill, and perseverance that these people continue to sail, protecting marine resources, supporting their families, and maintaining one of the most dangerous professions in America. If you want to discover more extraordinary stories about the relationship between humans and nature, little-known facts, and inspiring adventurous careers, subscribe to the Go Discover channel now so you don't miss any discoveries. Here, there are no noisy engines, no greenhouses, no artificial food, just sea, wind, and time. Man learns to enrich without harming nature, to nurture, not to plunder. From above, the rows of green mussel cultivation lines appear like a delicate network connecting people and the ocean. In the cold, clear water, mussel larvae, as small as dust particles, drift with the ocean currents, looking for the first point of attachment on the cultivation lines. From there, they grow, absorbing plankton and minerals from the water, their shiny black shells thickening over time. Each mussel filters up to 15 gallons of water a day, feeding itself and purifying the ocean at the same time. Each strand of seaweed produces not only food, but also a living ecosystem where fish, crabs, and starfish nestle among clusters of mussels that sway gently to the rhythm of the waves. A mussel farm of 200,000 can bring in $500,000 in revenue each year, a number that surprises many people. Why is mussels, such a common dish, so expensive? But behind the seemingly absurd price lies a year in the cold sea, dozens of inspections, classifications, and transportation in a closed cold chain. Each pound of mussels is the crystallization of time, effort, and risk, from storms to unpredictable weather. Consumers call it expensive. Farmers call it the price of sustainability. And environmentalists say, what you're buying isn't just food, it's part of a cleaner ocean. How many things in the world are worth paying that price for purity? And as the sun sets over Marlborough, its orange glow spreading across the water, it seems as if the ocean has calmed down after a long day. But just a few hours later, while the morning mist still covers the sea, life begins again, fierce, loud, and dramatic. The rumbling of the winch echoed through the misty air, tearing apart the calm morning sea. The cables stretched taut, vibrating violently, and salt water sprayed up as a cluster of mussels weighing dozens of pounds was pulled from the ocean floor. The black and green mussels cling tightly to each other, layer by layer, cluster by cluster, like living mineral veins of the ocean rising from the depths. The sound of the wind and the waves crashing against each other creates the characteristic music of the harvest season. The first rays of the morning sun filter through the water droplets, reflecting off thousands of iridescent black-green shells that shimmer like precious metals. This is the moment a year's work is measured in weight. A mature mussel strand can weigh up to 220 pounds. They took each bunch of mussels off the line, used a knife to cut off the beard, then gently placed them in a vat of cold water to preserve their freshness. The salty smell of the sea mixed with the metallic smell of the machines, all creating an unmistakable aroma, the smell of labor in the ocean. $200,000 mussels equal 50 tons of seafood. A small coastal farm, a flood season, a year of waiting, all wrapped up in this moment. Each rope pulled up represents hundreds of hours of care, betting the weather, the current, and the farmer's livelihood on the patience of nature. But what is the true value of these mussels, a seemingly ordinary creature that is so expensive? The workers were drenched in sweat and seawater, their hands blackened as they removed bunches of mussels from the ropes, as if they were mining the ocean's black gold. The insulated containers are neatly stacked and cold water is continuously pumped in to maintain the temperature. Every movement is precise and meticulous because they understand that just one small mistake can ruin the entire batch. The sun rose high, reflecting on the sparkling water, the light of achievement, but also a ray of light that clearly showed. To get this precious seafood, people must learn to wait instead of conquering the sea. Amidst the roar of the engines, one can hear the silence of the ocean, a silence reserved for those who know how to listen. They do not hunt, they do not exhaust. They harvest at the right time, in the right season, so that the sea can revive. When the last ropes are pulled up, the journey of green gold has not stopped. Beneath the calm waves is another journey, where the true value of the ocean is shaped by technology, standards, and human hands. Inside the coastal processing plant, the atmosphere was bustling and tense, like a high-tech production line. The sound of washing machines and conveyor belts shuddered, mixed with the sound of spraying water. The cold air from the deep freeze system covers the entire space, making every movement of people and machines precise down to the second. Freshly pulled mussel clusters are dumped into the cleaning system. Sand, seaweed, oyster shells, all washed away in the cold 50-degree Fahrenheit water. On the other side, workers in blue protective suits bent down to examine each one, their gloved hands moving quickly and precisely as if they were working in a laboratory. Each washing and separating operation is performed continuously, a rhythm between man and machine, where manual experience meets modern technology. On one side are dirty, muddy, and algae-covered mussels. On the other, clean, shiny black shells, reflecting the factory lights. An automatic sorting system separates the mussels by size. Each one is weighed, examined, and scanned for traceability. Standard rate, 92%, 8% rejected. It's not just food, it's an international standard. Each mussel has its own identity, its own origin, its own story. Yet it is here where technology and precision rule that the tide is raised. The rejected mussels, even if they are only a few inches smaller, are still healthy creatures, still edible, still children of the sea. Some say it is a necessary selection to ensure export quality, but for breeders, it is a heartbreaking waste because they know each fish carries the value of time and oceans. The conveyor belt continued to run, the cold light reflecting off the dark blue shell. Here, the beauty of nature must surpass human standards to be called perfect. And within that perfection, where is the limit between commercial quality and respect for the sea? The journey from sea to port takes only a few hours, but the journey to the dining table is a human transformation. From cold boxes in steel containers, mussels now step into a world of lights, silver knives, and delicate flavors, where nature meets art. The chef opened the steamer. White steam rose up, giving off the aroma of sea salt and melted butter. He used silver tongs to lift each open mussel, arranged them neatly on a pure white porcelain plate, and poured a layer of golden sauce on top. The light reflected off the dark blue shells like ocean jewels. However, behind that perfection lies a question that makes many people hesitate. Is the luxury on the dining table worthy of the hard work of the breeders and of the creatures just pulled from the deep sea? Each plate of mussels costs only a few dozen dollars, but behind it are days of waiting, calloused hands, the sound of winches, and salty seawater seeping into open wounds. From ocean to plate takes just 24 hours, but the mussel's journey goes beyond flavor. Behind that shiny black shell lies an economic value chain, a self-cleaning ecosystem, and the promise of a sustainable future for humanity and the sea. It is here that the mussel's story goes beyond the culinary realm, to become living proof that sometimes the smallest creatures hold the key to the world's green economy. Under the yellow lights of the harbor, the numbers on the screen read like the pulse of a quiet but hugely profitable industry. Revenues of $500,000 a year, costs of $320,000, and a net profit of $180,000. In the risky world of agriculture, where fish and shrimp depend on industrial feed and antibiotics, mussels have become nature's paradox. The less care, the more profit. They find their own food, clean their habitat, and help clear the ocean. A farm of 200,000 can generate as much profit as a large salmon farm, but at 60% lower costs. Under the blue water, thousands of mussels cling to the feeding lines, surrounded by baby fish, crabs, and starfish, a miniature ecosystem that is regenerating itself. Every year, 200,000 mussels filter more than 3 million gallons of seawater, turning the food production site into the green lungs of the ocean. The sea is no longer just a source of profit, but a bond between humans and nature, fragile but enduring. When the sun sets, only light remains on the water, like a silent promise between humans and the ocean, to continue to nurture, not to take. As the night falls, the sea is bathed in the silvery moonlight. The mussel rafts still sway, continuing to filter water, continuing to nourish the ocean and people. From 200,000 tiny creatures, the ocean has told us a great story of patience, sustainability, and faith in the future. If you believe the ocean still holds countless wonders waiting to be discovered, subscribe to the channel today to continue our journey to find the secrets hidden deep below the blue water. The ocean never gives away easily. Every season is a gamble, and no one can be sure that the next time will be a winner. If you want to discover more magical journeys from the sea, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next story.